My name is Nolan Lamkin. I am a Moto America Stock 1000 and Superbike Cup racer. I won the Superbike Cup Championship in 2023, and I finished 5th out of 64 riders in the Stock 1000 class. I'm at Talladega Grand Prix Raceway today, filming the third installment of this series, Racing Insight. So today, this is all about one of the longest races, a very fun race. This is a 4-hour endurance race that I did at Barber at the WERA GNF in 2023. And I did the 4-hour endurance race with a friend of mine, Vito DiCarlo. It was a great time. And then had another friend of mine, Kevin Horney, jump in. This is all just fun racing, nothing too serious, but it was a very interesting race all at the same time. We did the race on a Yamaha R6, and it was a pretty good time. It was a fun time. Got to have the race play for a little bit. There were multiple restarts, multiple things. We'll watch kind of the first lap, talk about some other stuff, and then as the race kind of progresses, we'll talk more about the different things that were going on at the time. There were multiple red flags and restarts and different things. This was the third one for this. We did the whole race on one set of tires. We ended up finishing 4th in class, and we were as low as 23rd overall, and we were as high as 4th overall, and catch up behind Josh Hayes, and we'll kind of go from there. All right, let's have fun. So this is for the start. They've got the three-minute board up. We'll have the 2-minute board up here now. Now the race is about to start. I'm riding this R6, and I haven't ridden a 600 in years. And we get a great start, get a great launch. That's Josh Hayes up on the right. And in 4th right now in turn 1. Getting it stopped, getting it slowed down was interesting. And the big thing is it was an endurance race. So it's not all about the outright speed right now. But 4 hours from now, where is everybody going to end up? So I wasn't trying to do anything too crazy. That's Gus Rodeo on a RS 660 twins bike. Got a little mugged here in turn 5, but again, it's a 4-hour endurance race, so not trying to do anything too crazy. I love, like, the end of races is generally when I, and especially in a 4-hour endurance race like this, we had multiple red flags leading up to this, and the clutches were getting burnt, and just a lot of different things were all kind of happening, so trying to keep my cool and see what was going on. Ironically, at the end of this race, we did 103 laps total around Barber in that 4-hour endurance race, and I did 76 of those 103 laps. So I certainly did a handful of laps. It was all fun. It was great. We did the whole thing on one set of tires, and originally the plan, and we had some stuff to do a tire change. We were like, all right, we'll probably do a rear tire change and swap that and then be good to go. But as the race was going on, really we weren't using up the rear tire that much. It wasn't like it was sliding. Obviously it was sliding. It was sliding a lot, but it wasn't anything super crazy. There were some kind of weird things going on with the bike where if you look on the lap timer, it's going to reset multiple times. On the previous lap, the lap timer shut off and the whole dash shut off and then came back, which was a little interesting. Didn't really matter though. As I've raced the BMW S1000 this past year in Moto America and Stock 1000 and the Superbike Cup, so I've been used to riding a 1000. And on this bike, I haven't ridden a 600 in a few years. I've ridden a Yamaha R6 around a go-kart track, which was actually pretty good training, but not riding it on a big bike, on a big track like this. So getting used to everything. In qualifying, I had done the fast lap for us, so I think we qualified in like 8th spot. But the nice thing about the 4-hour endurance race is I was able to keep it going, and kind of also I didn't want to stuff this guy right here. Again, it's not my bike, it's an endurance race. I think I pass him here in this next right-hander. Because it's a long right-hander, you can carry so much speed through it, especially at Barber. Set him up here, and then get him on the cutback. And yeah, there's so much speed that you can carry through that last little left-hander. And with it being an endurance race, I'm not wanting to do anything too crazy off the start. Did a 1:31.5, which is, again, nothing crazy, but it's an endurance race. So getting back to it, we were figuring everything out. This is just a fun race. And we were planning on doing a tire swap, but we knew a tire swap would cost us a lot of time. So what we ended up doing, normally for an endurance race, for a pit stop, you know generally when you'll need to stop. You'll measure the fuel, know how much fuel you'd use per lap. The crew guys will then be able to tell you when to come in, have a pit board, something kind of along those lines. And this is an R1 right here, and I'm on an R6. And we didn't really know what we were doing on the fuel, so I had a great time out there. But the way that we would tell when the bike was out of fuel is I'd be out there riding, and then it would start to sputter and spit because it was running out of fuel, and then I'd immediately pull into the pits. We'd dump fuel into it, and we had 2 fuel jugs, and basically had them both filled up to 8 liters. I'd pull the bike in, put the bike on the rear stand. Vito's wife would be holding the fire extinguisher, and then I'd dump 8 liters in, and then just as quick as possible, and then grab the second thing, and then dump about half of those, half that jug into it, and then I'd start looking at it and fill it up to the very top. And so the first start, again, that R1 just flew by me on the straightaway. But for the R6, or for those pit stops, we would lose so much time because we're just pouring the fuel in regularly. So we did a pit stop. Vito had to go do something, so then Kevin Horney was there. Kevin Horney threw his stuff on. He went out on track. And then we were down in like 20th spot for something. There was a red flag. And that'll happen kind of after this video. This video is one of my stints. And this is here, me behind this R1. You can just see him pulling me on the straightaways and going into the museum turn here. You can carry so much speed into that first right-hander. And then up over the top of this curbing. Looks like he had an issue. Yeah, it's Kevin then went out. We had another red flag. I was getting the best starts out of everyone, so then talked to Vito, and Vito's like, nah, you get in there. So then I did another start, and it was a crazy time. I don't know how many starts I did, and it would always be, it's like, I think Kevin did like 15 laps, and Kevin did 10, 15 laps, something like that, had a red flag, so I went back out on the bike and rode the thing till it ran out of fuel. And then it spit and sputtered, pulled it in, dumped fuel in it, sent Vito out there, and then Vito did, I think he did a couple laps, and there was another red flag. And then at that time, then put me back in. I went back out, did another start, was able to close the gap, because at that time then they were like spacing everybody out, and even though we were faster, they put us way back and just in the position wise, but they had a huge grid gap, so there was like 3 rows in between me and the group in front of us. So now I'm closing down on this R6, closing down that whole gap. At the end of the thing, we ended up working our way back up to 4th spot in class. I don't know, I think 14th position overall. And yeah, it was great, and especially getting this much time. It was cool physically, physical training wise, doing 4 hours. I did 73 laps. Had a lot of time on track, and it was great. This was at the end of the season in October. And yeah, making sure I used all the track there on the exit. It was great. I had an amazing time, had a fun time. We can watch some more stuff here. The biggest thing that was kind of sad is the GoPro didn't work for the entire race. And towards the end, there's a lot of stuff happening at the end of the race. And I was burning through my knee pucks. So I put on an endurance racing puck. And for the last little stint, it was just like the last 40 minutes. We had another red flag, 40 minutes to go, 30 minutes to go. Vito had gone out, and he'd done 15 laps or something. And I went back out. And I'd filled his fuel totally full. So what we thought that we'd have to do another pit stop kind of around the 15-minute mark. And I'm out there riding, and we get to the 15-minute mark, and that turn right there, turn 3, before you go up over turn 4. In turn 3, I drug my knee in the dirt. And when I did that, it ripped my knee puck right off. So for the last 15 minutes of this endurance race, when I'm already sore, tired, whatever, I can't drag my knee on the ground at all, anywhere. So I'm having to keep my knee tight because I don't want to drag it on the ground. And there's a few times where I'd kind of like skim it across the pavement on accident. Not because I wanted to, but it's just physically how the stuff kind of worked out. So I'm riding without a knee puck, waiting on the bike to run out of fuel, and I'm just counting down the minutes. Okay, 20 minutes left in the race. 15 minutes, drag my knee. And this is one of the other then restarts. I think this one was after one of the red flags, but 10 minutes to go, running through, just waiting on the bike to run out of fuel, because then I'm going to pass it over to Vito and then he'll go back out. 15 minutes, nothing. 12 minutes, still no sputter. 10 minutes, still no sputter. And at this point, I'm getting to, like, we've not got much time left in the race. Like, again, the starts we had were all right. This one wasn't necessarily as good, and that's Max Van in front of me on one of the Team Hammer bikes. Went around the outside of a few people there in turn one. But I'm not wanting to do anything crazy. Again, it's an endurance race. I'm trying to save the tires as much as possible. And if I'm hammering the thing on the brakes and I'm hammering the gas and having a bunch of inputs in on the bike, I'm not going to be able to save those tires. And like I said, we did this whole thing on one set of tires, 4 hours. Normally you have a set of tires for 30 minutes, and then you're swapping them back out. But that Aprilia twin RS660 thing was a rocket ship. And this was an RS6, but I think it was just a regular standard RS6. But yeah, so the last 10 minutes of the race, I'm counting down the laps, and I'm like, man, if I run out of fuel now, I'm just coming in and putting a bare amount of fuel in it and putting Vito back out and trying to get him to finish the race as quick as possible. And I'm counting it down in 12 minutes, 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 8 minutes, and I'm looking at the tower at Barber, because they have a timer along with the positions. And so I'm counting it down, and I'm coming out of the last turn looking at it. I'm coming out of turn 3, going over turn 4, looking at it. Out of turn 5, trying to peek out of the side of my helmet. Again, I'm just trying to see when this thing's going to run out of fuel, because we were just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And it gets down to 7 minutes, 6 minutes, 5 minutes, and still never run out of fuel. And I get to 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I'm like, man, if I run out of fuel now, I don't know what I'm going to do. And like a minute and a half left in the race, done 4 hours at this point, the bike spits and sputters. What am I going to do? I'm going to try and see if I can get it to just nurse it back to the line, so that next to last lap, I'm cruising, trying to just keep the thing using as little fuel as possible, not trying to hit the brakes. Then I have to get back on the gas, carrying as much roll speed as humanly possible, just so I don't have to use any fuel. And I crossed the start-finish line, and I'm like, man, just come on, one more lap, just one more lap. I'm crossing fingers, not actually, but in my mind, I'm crossing my fingers, I'm crossing my toes, I'm crossing everything I got, trying to give me some good luck. And going out of the museum turn, is I'm already like trying to lean the bike over on its side to let the fuel run to one side of the tank to try and get the fuel pickup to get some more fuel. But it just doesn't work. And I'm coming out of the museum turn, and it's already spit and sputtered coming out of turn 4. It's spit and sputtered coming out of turn 5. It's spit and sputtered everywhere. And I'm coming out of the museum turn, and it just falls. And it's got no more gas in it. It's got nothing. So I'm hitting the starter, trying to get just a little bit. And I nurse it, and then I'm pushing it. And then there's an Australian guy, and he then tries to help push, and he's putting his foot on the swing arm of the bike, trying to push me back. And we're both dog tired at this point, and I've done 70 laps, and we're pushing it. And then his foot slips off, and then I'm get off the bike, and I'm pushing it down the back straightaway. And then I'm able to get enough fuel, and I'm cruising down so at Barber, there's the tunnel. After the back straightaway, you do the first kink, chicane, and then there's the chicane at the end of the straightaway. And I'm able to get some fuel, and I bring it up, and then again run out of fuel, but I'm able to cruise it down. And then I just push the thing, and I'm pushing the thing forever. And I just got to get it to the start of pit lane. If I can just get it to the start of pit lane, then I can coast it down the hill. And at the end of it, I'm finally able to get it to the top of pit lane, cruise the bike down, and I'm dead smoked after that. My legs are shot. My arms are shot from trying to push the 600 for so long. This is where the bike had run out of fuel, and I was able to get it back going, cruise it a little bit down this hill, and then I'm pushing it up this hill, and that Australian guy's trying to give me a push. And man, it was an interesting time, to say the very least. And I get the bike back to Vito, and I'm sorry, man, I just didn't know what to do at that point. Cause do I try and pull it in? And it's like, then do we have to do another lap and we lose a whole bunch of time because we went through the pit lane? I don't know. All I know is I had a great time. Was blown away that the tires lasted that long. So I was just trying to be as smooth as possible. Like I was saying with the fuel earlier, the more that I'm having to get on the brakes, the more I have to accelerate. That's the more fuel that it's using. Same thing for the tires. So I'm just trying to save them as much as possible and not have too much load on the bike, whether on the brakes, on the gas, anything like that. Trying to pick the thing up as much as I can, so then it's not using as much tire, as much fuel, as much all of that stuff, just to be able to save it. And again, the dash just shut off then, but I was just riding the bike off a feel at that point. That was one of the things that I learned riding my Milwaukee 250 when I started out, because sometimes the dash would be a little wonky, and just being able to ride the bike off the feel, and you can feel when it starts to go. And generally most bikes, it's best to take the thing to the limiter. One of the things that people will do, and I know I did it years ago, is short shifting it like 1,000, 2,000 RPM under the rev limiter. But generally bikes make the most power right up at red line. Looks like maybe there's a red flag here. Yeah, red flag here in this race. There's so many red flags, there's so many starts. I'm just blown away that Vito's bike had enough clutch in it to be able to make it through all of the red flags and all the restarts. Yeah, it was a great time. I had a great race. I love doing it. I love doing endurance racing. I love to be able to do more endurance racing. It was an amazing time. I had a great time. Loved putting some laps in. Yeah, this is on an R6. This past year I raced a BMW 1000, which was great. I've had some people say to me, you know, you're really gelling with that 1000cc bike now. Like, you can tell moving up from the 600 onto the 1000, you're doing really well. And again, by all means, the 1000 does fit me really well, but I love doing this endurance race on a 600 and being able to get things going forward. I love racing bikes. And this was me walking through the Barber GNF 4-hour endurance race this past season. Again, we finished 4th in class in middleweight on a bike on one set of tires. Yeah, I think we ended up finishing in 8th place overall. Go on Speed Hive. Ironically, right now, Vito just sent me a message talking about when are we going to ride next. So we finished 13th overall out of 34 people on a bike that has no quick change anything. We're dumping the fuel in it just like anybody else. One set of tires. It was incredible. I had a great time. Love to do it again. And yeah, this is Nolan Lamkin signing out of Racing Insight episode 3. And yeah, let me know what you'd like for me to talk about next. I love talking about racing and sharing some of the other stuff behind it. This is one of the most fun races that I've done just personally. Yeah, signing out from Talladega Grand Prix.